Hi, everyone. This stack of books right here is called the Federal Register. For decades, copies have been printed, bound, and sent to thousands of government offices all across the country, every single day. And while you might think that most people just can't wait to dig into their copy as soon as it arrives, the truth is no one reads this thing. And that's because it's been available on the internet for years, which means taxpayers have been funding some pretty expensive doorstops. So we're putting an end to that, saving you millions of dollars each year. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Everyone knows that getting rid of the deficit will require some tough decisions. And that includes cutting back on billions of dollars in programs that a lot of people care about. But what should be easy is getting rid of the pointless waste and stupid spending that doesn't benefit anybody. Waste we should be getting rid of even if we didn't have a deficit. We're off to a good start. Over the last 2 years, we've pulled the plug on all kinds of ridiculous practices. Apparently, the government used to overnight containers filled with nothing. Don't ask why that is. Sure, some of these cuts aren't that big, but no amount of waste is acceptable. Not when it's your money. Not at a time when so many Americans are already cutting back. Just as families are living within their means, government should too. So we can invest in the things that we know will create good jobs and grow the economy. Things like education and technology. Besides, after a while, all these cuts add up.
$45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is.
Already we've identified about $33 billion in savings just for this year. And we're not finished, not by a long shot.
$8 million to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of. $60 million for indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million. $8 million for making mice transgender. This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her?
Did you know the federal government pays for a website devoted to a folk music ensemble made up of forest rangers? They're called the Fiddlin' Foresters. I'll put their music on my iPod, but I'm not paying for their website. And there are hundreds of similar sites that we should consolidate or just get rid of. By the way, you're not only paying for websites no one needs, you're paying for thousands of buildings all across the country no one uses. For the last decade, the government's owned a massive and completely empty warehouse in the middle of Brooklyn, for example. Now, the government hadn't been able to sell this building and others like it because of red tape and Washington politics that held things up for years. But we're finally cutting through all that and plan to get rid of these buildings in the months ahead.
A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia. $14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $59 million for illegal alien hotel rooms in New York City. He's a real estate developer. He's done very well. $250,000 to increase vegan local climate action innovation in Zambia. $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. I don't know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people.
All of these efforts to target waste and make government more efficient have been a priority for my administration since day one. But as we work to tackle the budget deficit, we need to step up our game. We need to go after every dime. We need to make government work for you. That's why, starting today, I've asked the Vice President to lead a renewed effort to hunt down misspent tax dollars in every agency and department of this government. We're calling it the Campaign to Cut Waste, and I know Joe's the right man to lead it, because nobody messes with Joe.
There's a new standard by which the government is going to function from this point on. The American people are entitled to transparency. By that I mean they're entitled to be able to figure out where their dollars are going, and they're entitled to accountability to make sure that we're using the dollars for what we said it was for. That's our job, and we take that job very seriously. Look, a lot of this depends on new, sophisticated methods, but it also, we know, depends on relentless focus on making this a priority. Focus that can't be delegated. We're holding ourselves accountable, and we're deeply committed and focused on making government function better. We're not just eliminating fraud and waste. We hope to be instilling an entire new culture that not only our administration, but every succeeding administration will in fact pursue. We're going to give you the government you expect and deserve. So I want to thank you all, and we're ready to get to work.
Programmed there are over 4.7 million Social Security numbers from people from 100 years old to 109. Think of that. Now, over 100, there aren't a lot of people that make it. Hopefully, most of the people in this room will make it, but historically, you don't have thousands and thousands of people. But listen to this. 3.6 million people are on Social Security rolls from the age of 110 years old to 119. Do you think there are really that many? Those people are seriously old. But it gets worse. 3.47 million people are on Social Security from the age of 120 years old to 129 years old. 3.9 million people are on the age of Social Security from 130 years old to 139 years old. Now, the all-time record, I heard, is a woman who was 127 years old. That's the record. A woman from a certain country where they have actually people that live pretty long, actually. And she was 127 years old. That's pretty old, but we're topping her by millions of people. 3.5 million people from the age 140 to 149 years old. 1.3 million people are on Social Security from the age 150 to 159. And over 130,000 people are on Social Security over the age of 160 years old, okay? Including 1,039 people, think of it, over 1,000 people between the ages of 220 to 229. And one person between the age of 240 years old to 249. And the record topper, there is one person on Social Security who's 360 years old.
So I think merit-based, this is why I'm sympathetic to the caller's theory, merit-based is big enemy to bureaucracy. Merit-based is a huge, huge problem for process and systems-oriented people. Because merit has nothing to do with whether they keep their job. Merit has nothing to do with whether they get promotions. Merit has nothing. It's other things. Trump comes in, looks at Ukraine. This is a mess, he says. These people are screwing this up left and right. I got to change this. I got to change that. I'm going to change the way we're doing this. I'm going to change the way we deal with immigration. I'm going to change the way we deal with the Chicoms. I'm going to change the way we're dealing. And these people who've spent their careers and their families before them, spent their careers putting this system in place, this order, feel abjectly threatened. And so the way they go about protecting themselves is to claim that Trump represents an existential threat to norms and to channels and to the way it's always been done. But that's exactly what he was elected to do. He was elected to shake all this up. People are tired of not being listened to. They're tired of being told they live in a representative republic. And they get tired of being told during campaigns that this is going to happen if we win, and then their candidates win and nothing ever happens. So it was a large protest vote. And rather than the establishment getting the message and realize, you know what, we better change. They don't acknowledge the will of the people. That's not part of the deal. The will of the people, that's a myth. That's what the people think. We really run this country. We run foreign policy. People don't know enough about it. Their elections can't possibly be informed. This is the attitude. It's not one of failure. They're not capable of thinking of themselves failures. They have no humility. I got to take a break. Way long.